Yeah, I was standing outside them and I joined via my phone so that I can like let him be outside for a little bit. And then Richard, our landlord's cat, came over as well. They're not friends. So I had to quickly get everyone inside the house first.
Like, oh no, here comes Richard.
Yeah. Is the nickname for Richard not Dick?
Yeah. Oh no, here comes Dick.
But why? I wonder. I don't get it.
I really don't understand it.
It's not even short for Richard.
Richard, call him Dickie. Yeah.
Dickie. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I'll probably, I don't know, just editing and maybe taking photos of new stuff and probably playing games. Like I've been downloading games today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Like PC games?
Yeah.
What are you downloading?
Right now, Borderlands 3 is downloading. I've never played it, but I've seen, like, it looks interesting, so I want to try it.
Is it like action or...?
Yeah, it's like a looter-shooter kind of...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I went onto Epic Games, and they give away a free game every week. So I'm like, well, I'll take it. Like, I got the whole BioShock game series for free. So I'm like, I'll add that. It's like 3 different games. I'm like, I'll take it. And then I'll give it a try.
That's very cool.
Because I've been playing Hellblade, but I'll have to restart it because I nearly died. And it's so annoying. Like, she gets this curse on her hand, and basically every time you die in the game, the curse goes further up her arm, and once it reaches her head, all your game progress is lost, and you have to start over.
Shit.
Because I hadn't played it in like a long time, and I only got like so far when I first tried, and then I kept dying, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to restart because otherwise it's pointless to go forward, and then you just have to restart anyway.
Well, that's quite like hectic. The stakes are high. Oh my word! I would be so stressed playing that the whole time because I'd be like, oh, I died. No, let me just start again.
Yeah. The whole game it's based on psychosis, what it's like to have that illness. So it was made with a doctor who deals with people with psychosis and stuff. So there's like, you put on your headsets and you hear like different voices and stuff, and it's like, it's quite hectic. But it's beautiful to look at. Like the game is so beautiful. Like sometimes I just stand. Hellblade. What do you? What's that?
My note. My little.
What was like a little nail
sticky
file.
Notes.
Why do you have so many?
Because I stole them from my sister. So I have an update for the Vikita Blanche case. So, I think it's worth mentioning that this is our second time recording this episode.
Oh, yes.
Because our technical difficulties, there was like just bad sound. There was a really bad hiss on the recording that I struggled to take away. So, this is our second time recording this.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully this time it goes better.
It will, I hope. Anyway, so there's a Vikita Blanche update. On the 28th of March, Arnold to Blanche, I just want to remind everyone that this is the case where it's still ongoing, but Vikita Blanche's husband and her boyfriend are going to go on trial for her murder or planning her murder. So if you want to maybe refresh your memory, it is episode 13. So just go back there and take a listen. So on the 28th of March of this year, Arnold to Blanche and Reynard Leach were due back in court after he as in Arnold, tried to apply for bail and he got denied twice. Once in the magistrate's court and then a second time in the High Court when he appealed. He applied for bail again in April, and he's now trying to spin a whole new tale to the court, one where he was actually the victim and Vicky Terblanche was the abuser. So in the previous episode, in the episode that we cover Vicky Terblanche's case, I said that the investigating officer, Colonel Reinhard Kana Swanepoel, said in his sworn affidavit that Vicky tried to complete suicide and that one of Arnold's previous spouses had been admitted to the psychiatric facility allegedly due to the abuse that she suffered at his hands. But now she said in a sworn affidavit that was read to the court by Arnold's lawyer that he never abused her, he not physically or emotionally, and that he was in no way domineering or anything like that. So, a quote from the affidavit: "He had never laid a hand on me and I never tried to commit suicide. I didn't feel fearful and I wasn't even coerced into anything. My relationship with Arnold was based on mutual respect. He was a loving and caring husband and father." Unquote. So she was married to him from 1989 to 1996, so 7 years, and she's the mother of his eldest daughter. So she said it was a mutual decision to get a divorce because the love between them had dissipated and they'd just basically grown apart. And she also mentioned that since he was such a great father, their daughter decided to permanently live with him when she was 14 years old, and it was a decision that her mother was satisfied with. Then the Blanche's domestic worker, who had been working for Arnold Blanche for 16 years, also via an affidavit said that she used to clean Vicky's house after the two of them got divorced, and she never saw any marks on Vicky's body indicating assault or abuse. Then also in her affidavit she said, quote, "Vicky was not abused, she was the abuser. Arnold bought her expensive clothes and sent her on luxury overseas trips. He was a good husband and father, and he was generous." Unquote. So, I don't know, take that with a grain of salt, because no one can ever know the intimate details of a relationship. Yeah. In the case, you might also recall that there were two family members that were allegedly bribed by Arnold. So, one with money and the other one with a car. Both of them, for what it's worth, denied the claims in their respective affidavits. And so now the matter has been postponed, and Senior State Advocate Marius Stander asked the Gqeberha Magistrates Courts to disregard at least 72 points listed in Arnold's affidavit in his bail application based on new facts. So that is a lot. I didn't get too much info regarding that because it's on Herald Live's site, who I'm not subscribed to currently. When I was doing this research, I actually subscribed to them. I think they have like a 7-day subscription, which is like 30 rand or something like that. So I had that, so I haven't renewed it again. But as the case progresses, I'll probably end up subscribing and covering a little bit more about it. But that was it for update.
Oh my god, it's always so sad when people try and turn stuff on the victim.
Yeah,
just take responsibility for what you've done.
I
if you've already tried to bribe people, then who's to say you didn't bribe the housekeeper or threaten her?
That's the thing.
Who do you believe?
Exactly, and I just don't believe that anyone can ever know the intimate details of a relationship, except for those two people involved. But I don't know. I just hope some sort of justice comes out of this.
For sure.
And speaking of last week, I think it's just worth mentioning we did touch on the Stellenbosch incident with
you say touch
the racism.
On. We had a half an hour chat about it.
We had a long chat about it. I still try to salvage a lot of the podcast, and let me tell you, there was a good, 20, 30 minutes that we talked about it, and then brought it up again later, I think, as well. So I don't know, I haven't actually seen anything else regarding that. I know the student who urinated on the other student's belongings, Tiens de Toy is his name, the offender. I think he's just being suspended, but I see that there is how his disciplinary process is unfolding. So he has to respond to the charge sheet. So I guess he has already, but I don't know. He should be, like we said, I think at least expelled. Mm-hmm. And then, he should at least pay for the damage that he's caused, both physically and the property that he's damaged, and then also pay for some sort of psychological not evaluation, like, I think it's also just worth mentioning that we did say, like, I can't say the course of action that needs to be taken or what needs to be, how justice needs to be brought about, because I'm not a person who has suffered from being attacked racially before, because, you know, just because I have a different skin color or whatever. And I think last week I equated it to, I wouldn't want a man to give his opinion on what needs to happen when another man does something to a woman, you know, commits gender-based violence or whatever. I wouldn't want another man to, like, give his opinion, because his opinion doesn't really matter, because, you know, you can't know. Yeah. Exactly, he doesn't know. Yeah. Oh, the first year law. Oh my gosh. He was a law student. Oh my goodness. Anyway, and I think you also mentioned, like, his parents also need to face some sort of, like, repercussions.
Oh, for sure, because you learn that somewhere.
Somewhere, exactly.
If you're going to go as far as urinating, like, you're going to pee. Like, I know guys use the world as their toilet, but what makes you, like, get up, or just in the middle of the night you're doing something else and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go pee on someone's stuff because I dislike them so much, and for what reason? We don't know if they even knew each other. He's learned that somewhere, so the parents are supposed to be held responsible.
Yeah. I don't think they, like, knew each other, but he must have known. I'm pretty sure he probably knew this was a student of color's dormitory.
But I mean, I've had people do some crappy things to me, and I've never thought, I'm gonna go pee on their stuff. Like, what?
Yeah.
That doesn't even equate. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I know. Like, that's so weird.
Yeah, I just hope that the proper course is taken and that he gets justice, you know, the victim. Because that's just wrong. It's just not right.
It's disgusting as well.
Like, it's your first time at university. It's probably such a big deal. Like, it's probably been such a process to get you there, because you don't come from money. You know, if I saw correctly, the laptop he had was on loan from the university and stuff like that. That's like your first time at university, and then something like that happens. That's horrible. Like, that's it. That must set the tone for your entire time there. You know?
For sure. I think it...
And like most of the students there are white, and you're in the minority as a black person, and then you just expect maybe that you're going to get treated badly like that.
And you're in the hostel, you know, like, you're already mostly surrounded by white people, like you said, the minority in general, but especially I feel like probably in the hostels, you know. I don't know, white people must just be like that. I don't understand, people honestly. Yeah, I just don't get it. But I guess that's almost like what half of this podcast is about, isn't it? Horrible people. Yeah. I guess I will start, as it has been 45 minutes. I'm just talking shit. Yes.
As is tradition.
So, like, it is tradition by now, exactly. So, as per usual, I'll just start with my disclaimer. The following stories contain graphic content and might not be suitable for everyone. The sources I use to find the information will be listed below, and everything I say is my own opinion unless it is stated as fact, and obviously I mean no disrespect towards anyone that I speak about. We're just merely serving as a platform for the victims' voices. So this week I am going to talk about Carl Schoombie, which is it's a really sad case. It's a really tragic case. Not that I know all of the cases are tragic, but this is just...
I think it's just like every time we hear a new story, we're like, this one sucks, this is bad. But every single one, every single time we're like, this is bad, this is horrible.
Yeah.
It's just like every time in a new way, it's awful.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. So Carl was a 27-year-old Stellenbosch University graduate. Speaking of Stellenbosch, he was an extremely dedicated and motivated person and brought that energy forward in everything that he did. He attained 2 degrees in 7 years, which is mind-blowing. He first completed a BCom in financial management and then went into mechatronics, which I still don't know what that is.
Is that like Transformers?
That sounds like it's I'm assuming it's engineering related. He had a loving family consisting of his parents and his brother and his sister. He was a keen sportsman. He, especially rugby. He also played for the Sharks Academy in his first year after school. And then I also read somewhere that he coached swimming as well. So a well-rounded person, you know, academically strong, good at sports. I'm like a good person, just all round. On the 21st of November 2015, Carl Schoombie had recently returned from a trip to France, and he, along with his close friend's sister, and his sister's friend, so 4 people in total, 2 guys, 2 girls. Mm-hmm. The guys are friends, the girls are friends, and then one of the girls is brother and sister with
her brother.
Carl's friend. Yeah. Yeah. I know it's a little bit complicated.
Yeah.
It sounds complicated, but like I've mentioned previously, that I don't really want to add extra names into the cases. Just, I know they are involved, but they're not necessarily directly involved, and yeah, I'm just not going to broadcast someone's name out there.
Who is speeding around there?
There's a guy, I think he lives, and it's so weird because it's so quiet here, and then there's one person with a fucking dirt bike that has to let everyone know he's driving right now. I think it's a guy that lives in our, it's not a complex, but like in our, I don't know, it's not compound, that makes it sound like a cult. Like, yeah, in the gated, copy.
What's his name, Jeffrey?
Patrick named him Anthony.
Anthony, there it is. The cult of Aaaaanthony.
Anthony. So yeah, I think he lives in like somewhere in the gated community, and there's a dirt road like literally behind us, and I think he just drives up and down there. But why at this time of the night? It's dark. Go home.
Yeah. And
like you can't even see anything. Yeah. Some people are recording a podcast.
Yeah, like come on.
Rude.
Cognizant guy. I couldn't think of what's the word. Not conscientious. What is it when you care about other people?
Considerate.
That's the one.
Wow, we're both so smart tonight.
And clearly I'm so out of practice. So be nice. Okay.
So, he had recently, like I said, he was out with his friend's sister, and his friend's sister's friend.
Okay.
So they set out for a night on the town, going to the clubs in the city first. So I assumed, like, probably, Loeb Street, those places. And then towards the end of the night, they ended up in a popular nightclub in Claremont called Tiger, Claremont, Cape Town. As you do, you go from club to club, just decide going somewhere else now. I don't know. I haven't been out in a while. I remember. So where Tiger was located at the time, it has since closed. It was next to some other clubs in the vicinity, and I just remember Tiger being a very cool club, and a lot of the high school kids got into Tiger. Yeah. I'm not saying that they purposefully let underage kids in, but I'm just saying I know a lot of people from my high school personally that went to Tiger.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And I mean, I know my friend used to go there a lot, and I remember how she used to dress going there, her and her friend. So, it's a specific kind of place too. So for young people to be going there and, with the heels and the short skirts and like the poofy hair, and you drinking and stuff, like, it's not... I wouldn't want my kids to go, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, of course. Like, not victim blaming or anything like that, but it is like, I think clubs have the responsibility, like you said. Like,
show your ID. Show your driver's license.
And
your driver's
do you want to
license,
tell me? Do you want to tell me that all of those kids had fake IDs and stuff like that? No, bullshit.
And you can see by someone's face as well most of the time. Like, okay, you're like 16, go away.
Yeah. And also I think by how someone behaves, you know. I think I'd be able to see underage people, but I don't know. But still, like, this club, it is a fact. Like, I know a lot of young people used to go there. And this wasn't the only, I wouldn't even call it controversy, but this isn't the only bad thing that has happened at this Tiger or, like, in the vicinity of this Tiger. Because, I think they allowed people to get too drunk and too, like, belligerent and couldn't... Yes, exactly. Because I read another article where a woman was assaulted, like physically attacked, in the presence of her son by one of the bar goers there one of the nights. Yeah. In an article in Cape Town magazine, when Tiger Claremont was still open, the author wrote, quote, "Wearing full-length leggings and a pair of pumps, I'm obviously underdressed." Like you mentioned, there's a specific way everyone dressed there. "It may be based in budget-bound Studentville." Now there's like a lot of young people there, but this hangout is high fashion and stiletto central. And then from the manager, quote, "We don't consider Tiger pretentious, but we do attract well-heeled people," says general manager of the time, perhaps missing the pun that he just said. But yeah, like I said, I just think there was a lot of very, very intoxicated people there, and it wasn't regulated enough. And hence they closed. At some point, Carl and his friends were there, the group was there. A scuffle broke out in the nightclub between four men. So, not really surprising, like we just said, a lot of drunk people. I think that almost always escalates into a fight of some sort breaking out. I think we've all been witness to some sort of drunk altercation in a club. If not, oh my word, if not like getting into an altercation yourself. One night, like a guy kept on pulling, on the loops, the belts, where your belt goes through on your jeans. I was dancing on the dance floor, as you do when you go to a club. This guy kept pulling at my fucking belt loops. And the first time he did it, I turned around and I said, "Don't do that. I don't like that. Stop. Leave me alone." And I turned around and I kept on dancing, and he did it again. And I was like, "You need to fucking stop, because I am going to get physical with you. Leave me alone." And he did it for a third time, and I turned around and I fucking slapped him across the face. I was like, "Fuck off and leave me alone." And then he got thrown out. So, don't pull on people's clothes. Just don't do that.
Don't get in people's space. Ugh.
Exactly. That's never going to work.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Today's just tangent central.
Yeah, gosh. So the fight broke out in the club, and two of the men that were involved in the fight were kicked out at the back of the club, and the other two men were kicked out at the front of the club. So, they just both get separated and they go about their nights, hopefully, you'd hope. So, seeing as the scuffle didn't really have anything to do with Carl and his friends, they were probably just a witness to it, and then they went about their night, and it just so happens that at this time they were gearing up to leave. They were calling an Uber and they were ready to get home, because it was probably around 3:30 a.m. at the time, time to go home. The Uber arrives and the four of them get into the car and they start making their way to their respective homes. And as they were driving, the Uber driver thought something was a little bit off, and that the car behind them was actually following them. So he tried to confirm whether this person was actually following them. And he made a few turns and, kind of turns that he wasn't planning on making, and probably sudden turns and whatever, to see if this person is going to keep on following him, making the same turns every time. And sure enough, they do. At some point, the Uber driver turned into a cul-de-sac, and then realizing his mistake, he tried to turn around, but when he did that, he was just faced with the headlights of the car following them. The two men jumped out of the car, and they charged towards the Uber driver, and then they began banging on the windows, demanding that the passengers should get out. Although it's worth mentioning that in a media statement, the National Prosecuting Authority mentioned that, quote, the two accused forced the taxi to stop, and the deceased and witnesses explained to them that they were making a mistake, and the Uber driver managed to leave. The accused followed the taxi again, forcing them to stop again. The second time, the deceased and his friend got out of the taxi to explain to the accused that they were making a mistake. So this was most likely the second time that they had been stopped by these people. So like I said, Carl and his friend got out, and that's when the perpetrators looked at them and started shouting, "That will teach you not to fuck with us." And they kept on going about how Carl and his friend did them dirty and they'll pay for it and stuff like that. Needless to say, Carl and everyone around him were all very confused, and they were trying to explain to them that they didn't know what they were talking about. They never did anything to them. These were obviously the two men that were in the fight, looking for the other two guys they were in a fight with. But before they could get through to them, the men launched an attack. One of the men punched the Uber driver directly in his face, causing him to fall unconscious. The two men then started attacking Carl and his friend, and they were relentless in the way that they kept beating the two men. Even the woman in the car started screaming to them to stop, and people in the cul-de-sac had started coming out of their homes and obviously trying to find out what this noise was, and they were all screaming for these two men to stop beating them. But they continued kicking, punching, elbowing, even as both of the victims lay unconscious and helpless on the ground. Finally, the two men stopped the beating, and just like that, they got into their car and drove off. I don't even know how you do that. How do you just get in your car and drive home after doing something like that? The two men that were beaten and the Uber driver as well obviously needed medical attention, and an ambulance was called. Carl had suffered intense head injuries and he was in a coma. I'm not sure if it was medically induced, but I think it was most likely just the head injuries. He was just...
if the guy was the taxi driver was punched and then beats out, those are some angry, drunk, alcohol-fueled punches.
Yes. So not much was said about the injuries of his friend or the Uber driver, but both men survived the attack.
Okay.
Unfortunately, on Wednesday, the 25th of November 2015, Carl passed away due to his injuries. So police obviously had a lot of witnesses that could tell them exactly what the suspects looked like, but they also had CCTV footage from the club. The two attackers were seen and identified in the footage because they were a part of the brawl that happened. The first man is called Brent Henry. He was 37 at the time, and I think we immediately noted how freaking old he is. Surely you must have some more better processing of, I know he was drunk, but
and it's not
really, honestly,
it's not you're that age, you shouldn't go out. My boyfriend is around that age and we go out, but the thing is those are school kids basically in that club. Not supposed to be, but those are really young kids there. So it's kind of what are you doing there? There's places where more, our age goes, not high school, basically, even though they're not supposed to be there. I know, but you know what I'm saying? That's the thing. We're not you're too old to do anything. It's just
no, of course not. I think you're just old enough to know better.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're going out and starting fights with kids. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Go home.
So, exactly, go to your family. So Brent Henry had been arrested shortly after police identified him from the footage. He was a first-time offender, a father of 3 school-going children, and had a record of steady employment. Obviously, you know better. Yeah.
Should. Yeah.
Should, exactly. The second man identified was 35-year-old Dwayne Jacobs.
Juan.
I'm just going to call him Jacobs, though, because I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation, and I have a terrible memory and can't remember how they said it on the news. He was a married man with previous convictions. He financially supported his 3 children and played an active role in their lives. So also, both of them had 3 children. He was also a Muay Thai boxer, which is horrible, you know, because I think we mentioned this. I'm pretty sure like those types of like mixed martial arts and stuff like that, or not mixed martial arts, is usually you only use it for defense. You know, you don't initiate combat and stuff like that. I would think.
Better to be a better to be a warrior in a gardener than a gardener in a war.
Yes. Warrior in a garden. You mean?
That's what I said.
Not in a garden. Didn't you say a warrior in a gardener?
I didn't mean to. Warrior in a garden.
I was like, yeah, you have been listening to my direction.
Never mind. That's enough philosophizing for one day.
But yes, no, you're right. So, Jacobs couldn't be found. Like I said, Brent Henry was arrested basically immediately. Jacobs couldn't be found and he basically went on the run.
Yeah.
Brent Henry didn't deny being on the scene, but he did deny hurting the 2 men. Mm-hmm. He applied for bail and succeeded, and he was granted bail on 1,000 rand. Brent Henry was still nowhere to be found, and Carl's family offered a reward of 50,000 rand for any information on his whereabouts, even saying in an article, so I said 50,000 rand, but in this article I believe they had just upped it. So, quote, "We will consider a reward of 65,000 rand for anyone who provides information that could reveal the whereabouts of Jacobs for the purpose of enabling the police to get the information they need from him in relation to the murder case." Eventually, Jacobs was found and arrested, and this was also when Brent Henry's bail was revoked and the 2 men had to appear in court to face their charges. During the trial, both men denied this brutal attack, but medical evidence sourced by advocate Christopher Burke told a very different story. It showed that the type of injuries Carl suffered could only be suffered when the brain moves at a very high velocity and there's a shearing of nerves between the static and movable parts of the deep brain. Further, it revealed that someone's head lying on the ground must have been struck by a swinging object, such as a bat or a leg, and would need to move from side to side horizontally with enough velocity to cause the shearing effect. The doctor who testified during the trial said that these types of injuries were usually seen in motor vehicle accidents and falls from considerable heights. Advocate Burke argued that the accused did not show any remorse or take responsibility for their actions. They were only sorry for the situation that they found themselves in. So not sorry for what they actually did. Advocate Burke said, quote, "There's never been a more clear indication of direct intention to kill in an assault case in South Africa than this one. The particular skill set owned by Jacobs made him a killing machine, able to use fists, elbows, knees, and shins like others use guns and knives to kill. He had direct intention to murder Carl, and Henry, knowing this, joined him, also intending to murder Carl. The medical evidence of deep brain injuries and the observations by the eyewitnesses of the absolute brutality of the assault and their certainty that it was meant to kill, coupled with the accused not allowing the court the opportunity to determine their exact mindsets, are consistent with the finding of murder with dolus directus at the very least." So Henry was convicted on charges of murder, assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm, assault and crimen injuria. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder, 6 months for assault of Carl's friend, 60 days for the assault on the friend's sister, and 60 days on the assault and crimen injuria on the sister's friend. So crimen injuria is a crime under South African common law, and it's defined to be the act of, quote, unlawfully, intentionally, and seriously impairing the dignity of another person. So Jacobs was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder and was sentenced to a further 3 years in respect to the 2 assaults with intent to do grievous bodily harm. The court ordered that all sentences in respect of both accused are to be served concurrently, meaning both accused will serve life in prison. The 2 men tried to appeal for a lighter sentence. Henry tried to argue that he had been a productive member of society and that the court didn't take his alcohol intake into consideration, and that it was the aggression from drinking too much and the fight from the club that happened and that led to this, that he wasn't a violent person. So just basically blaming it on drinking too much and being in a fight at the club, having a heated moment, and took it too far, which no.
Sure.
So I'm just going to quote Jacobs' defense directly from the News 24 article. Quote, Jacobs contended that the trial court did not properly take into account that he had bipolar disorder and attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and consequently his, quote, moral blameworthiness, quote, as well as his alcohol and drug abuse problem. So they basically didn't take into account that, because he had consumed, I don't know what drugs he consumed, and his alcohol led to, does he have blame because he has all these both these mental illnesses, and he has the drug problem, and he was drunk. So, like, how can you basically blame him for his actions? They basically had very similar appeals or very similar reasons to appeal, except Jacobs tried to, throw in mental problems in there.
That's so...
And I don't understand... I understand why he would want to blame bipolar disorder. You can't blame bipolar disorder because that's not what bipolar people who suffer from bipolar do, or who have bipolar disorder do. That's not how, you can't just blame it on something. But I really don't understand why he felt the need to put in that he has ADHD in there.
You can see he clearly doesn't understand what those things are. They're just throwing it out
there.
Because if you knew anything about those illnesses, you wouldn't use it as an excuse. And also how insulting to the victim to just and insulting to people who have mental illness to try and use that as an excuse. No, you're a murderer.
100%.
Just accept that what you've done and try and show some freaking decency. What the hell?
Yeah, stop trying to shift the blame onto something else that's quote unquote out of your control,
Yeah, and if you know that you have a problem, why are you going to a club where there's drugs and alcohol? Why are you drinking when you're supposed to be on medication for your mental illness? Doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
No.
They were both denied a lighter sentence in February 2020. Western Cape High Court judge was not convinced by the arguments that the life terms for murder were disproportionate. Obviously. In 2021, the Schoombie family started a petition after learning that Jacobs applied for medical parole 4 years into his sentence. Carl's sister said in the George Herald, quote, "We have started the petition hoping to get as many signatures as possible to keep Jacobs off the streets. He has previous convictions, is a serious danger to society, and is also considered to be a flight risk since he fled from the police for 3 months after the murder," unquote. He was reportedly diagnosed with renal failure, and it's alleged that he had suffered 2 heart attacks, a stroke, and was HIV positive before receiving his sentence. So he is HIV positive, but like, that doesn't matter. No offense, but like, that doesn't matter.
That's like saying because
you've taken someone's life.
Yeah, it's like if you murder someone but you have cancer, like, that doesn't matter if you have cancer. You still murdered someone. You know, you having an illness doesn't condone terrible behavior.
No, what exactly? So the National Prosecuting Authority voiced its concern about the Jacobs family, saying that the family was, quote, wrongly and publicly issuing statements that Jacobs without question qualifies for medical parole, when this is still a matter for the Medical Parole Board to decide according to strict criteria, including possibly the prisoner's danger to society, and this is causing the Schoombie family unnecessary and unfair anguish. So I think, as I remember, or as I understand, like there's basically a video that came out where all of these different prisoners were applying for medical parole and, you know, really like trying to sell their case. And but I don't think he ever got medical parole. I haven't been able to find an update regarding that. But after Carl's murder, his brother created the Carl Strong Foundation, and it is aimed at supporting people dealing with grief, loss, and other emotional consequences such as depression as a result of violent crime. And that is the case of Carl Schoombie. And like I said, it's such a tragic case because he was killed for nothing.
Yeah,
he wasn't even. This wouldn't have made it any better, but it wasn't even the person that they were after.
Yeah.
You know, like
for sure.
that would have been just as bad, but still. And like I mentioned, in the last time we recorded, when I was in high school, I think it was in grade 9. One of the matric boys went out one night, whatever, and I don't know if he got into a fight or just was like a part of the group that had got into a fight, or whatever the case may have been, but they were outside the club and they got into a fight and someone pushed him and he fell and he like hit the back of his head on the pavement and he died a few weeks later. He was in the hospital for quite a while and he eventually died. And it's just horrible that things like this happen. And I feel like there is, I know the sole responsibility to drink responsibly is on the individual, but I do believe that clubs should be looking after their patrons as well. If you see someone is completely like belligerently drunk, surely you're not gonna fucking sell them more alcohol, you know what I mean? But then the problem, I guess, is like other people will buy for you and then and you'll continue to drink and whatever.
Or like get them an Uber or something, like
yes, at the very least,
at that point, just like go. They're endangering. But
other people at the end of the day,
it's just all, I don't know. They all just need to be a little bit more responsible, I think. But I mean, like, to beat someone to death because you think that there's someone else and that person slighted you just a little bit. Like, who knows what even happened? Like, maybe they just looked at them wrong and they went, crazy about it.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand that behavior. Like,
especially when you're drunk, it's like the smallest things can sometimes irritate you or set you off or whatever. So who knows? And it's just completely senseless. It's awful.
100%. It's just, there's no excuse. There's no. I can't even I can't even begin to justify it, and they don't want to. No. They deserve to be in prison at the end of the day. And that moment when the kids are more responsible than they were, because these are 27-year-olds taking Ubers home because they knew they'd be drinking. And like you mentioned previously, like, you hope that if it's your child or whatever going out, that they are safe and they make good decisions and stuff like that. And they did all of that. And something horrible still happened.
Yeah, there's no guarantees. Like, It's so sad. The poor parents must be so heartbroken because there's absolutely like no reason that should have happened.
No, exactly.
It's awful. I mean, there's never a reason for murder, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. No. But yeah, I guess this is where we insert our break.
Yes, and I insert more
Cue the theme's music
into my bloodstream.
Into your bloodstream?
Yeah, inject it straight in there.
Oh gosh. James is trying to eat her food.
Oh, I love that half black face of hers. It's so pretty.
Oh, she's so cute.
Oh, so big now, hey? Oh, baby.
Yeah, she's grown a little bit, I think.
Oh.
But she's still so small in comparison to James.
Mm.
I mean, she probably weighs like 2 kilos, and James is like 7.5.
Oh, wow.
Her hair looks crazy because I put her hair, like her fur looks from broad line stuff. Yeah.
Oh, the top of the ointment.
Oh my god, the ointment, the cream.
The cream.
What? But yeah, Patrick did say it was like a new lady that started working there because she was reading off of the packet as well. I was like, oh my word. And it says some training.
Some. You have to like at least be a pet owner to work at a pet shop.
Exactly. And because even when I was reading the box, it still said like worms, heartworms, intestinal worms.
Heart?
Like, yeah, heartworms.
Worms in your heart?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, especially, I think animals especially.
Oh.
Well, we're animals, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Heart.
Baby, you and me ain't nothing but numbers, so let's do it like
do
we
it
do
like
on
they
the
do
Discovery Channel. Oh my word, that lag nearly threw me off my song.
I know, I was also like, why are you singing so slow? But okay. I was like, this is a much more upbeat song. Why are we singing it like we're depressed?
I mean, life.
Yeah, so it's a parasitic roundworm that is a type of filarial worm, a small thread-like worm that causes dirophilariasis. Dirophilariasis, I don't know.
I love how we got you to pronounce all these words.
No.
That's disgusting.
So yeah,
is it only
in
animals?
pets and stuff? It looks like it, yes. It says heartworm disease is a serious disease that results in severe lung disease, heart failure, organ damage, other organ damage, and death in pets.
Oh no.
Yeah, so... Wow. But anyway, I knew that like broadline was used for everything. Like it's a broad spectrum treatment, which is why it's called broadline.
Oh, just hold on.
Okay.
Shut up! Shut up! He's like talking so
What is he doing?
He's talking to Lily. He's like, kill it. I think she's playing with her teddy bear and like killing it. He's got his headset. Yeah, he's got his headset on. He can't hear a thing. Yeah. Why did I buy him noise cancelling? I shouldn't have done that to myself.
Oh gosh.
So today I'm talking about the elevator game. Yeah. If you've heard of Elisa Lam and her case at the Cecil Hotel, then you've likely heard of the elevator game. And I'm going to use the words elevator and lift interchangeably because to me they're the same thing.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The elevator game is said to have originated in Korea. Some say Japan. It's basically an East Asian country. This game is supposed to give the person playing it access to another world or dimension. So, how to play? Most sources state that only one person can play at a time. The requirements are you need a tall building, at least 10 stories high, excluding the basement, and an elevator that can reach all of the floors. So to begin, there's a set of instructions, and these instructions are said to be able to take you to the other world. So, some sources say you should start exactly at midnight, and some say at 3 a.m. The consensus is that you can start at any time. You enter your chosen building and you go directly to the elevator. You're not allowed to press the down button to call the elevator. So the elevator has to be at your level. You have to say up to be able to use that elevator. When the doors open, you need to enter, and you must ensure that you are on the first floor and that no one is in the lift or gets in it with you. If at any time during the ritual someone gets into the lift with you, you have to return to the first floor and start from the beginning. So you get in, you're on your own, and you select the 4th floor. And then when the lift gets to the 4th floor, you stay in the lift and you press the button for the 2nd floor. And then once you're at the 2nd floor, you stay inside and you go to the 6th floor. And once you get to the 6th floor, you stay in and you go to the 2nd floor. And once you're on the 2nd floor, you stay inside and you press the 10th floor button. And I've seen in 1 or 2 sources that this is why the building should be 10 stories exactly, so that you go from the very bottom to the very top of the building during this ritual. So once you're at the 10th floor, you stay there and you press the 5th floor button. When you get to the 5th floor, a young woman might enter the lift. Do not look at her. Do not speak to her. She is not what she seems. You have to stay in the lift with her.
Sorry. I'm assuming you can at least have a piece of paper with you so that you can remember all of these steps that you need to take.
So, because I would never be able to remember this.
Neither would I.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's too many. And also, if you're stressed, you're worried, you're going to forget and you're going to get it wrong. That's asking for trouble.
Even if I was calm as a cucumber, I would still forget.
Yeah, true. So, a woman might enter the lift that you can't look at, you can't speak to, but if she does, you have to stay in the lift and you press the 1st floor button. So, this 13th step is where the game will go 1 or 2 ways. Either the lift will go down to the 1st floor, or it will go up to the 10th floor. Remember, you've pushed the 1st floor button. If the lift goes back to the 1st floor, the ritual has failed. And once the lift gets to the 1st floor, you need to exit as soon as the doors open, and you don't look back. You don't speak, you just leave. You leave the building without looking back, and you can try the ritual at another time. If the lift goes up to the 10th floor, the ritual is a success, and you may proceed. And this is the only point where you can cancel the ritual if you're scared or you don't want to continue. You can cancel the ascension by pressing the button for any of the floors, but it must be done before you reach the 9th floor. So I assume you can push buttons 1 to 8 before you get to the 9th floor. But if you decide to stay, then once you reach the 10th floor, you can either stay on the lift or you can exit onto the floor. There, I didn't see much about what happens if you stay on the lift, but if you do exit onto the floor, then the woman who possibly entered on the 5th floor might now ask you where you are going, and she will probably call you by name as well. Do not answer her, do not look at her, don't say anything, and just leave the lift. Once you're out on the floor, look around, but do not lose track or sight of which lift you came out of. You would now have found yourself in another world, and this world may look the same, but there are slight differences. And the one way you know you're in this other world is that you're completely alone. Now,
that's scary.
So now, once you've been up onto the 10th floor, you're going to want to return. So how you return depends on how you got there. If you stayed on the lift when you got to the 10th floor, then you need to press the button for the 1st floor. The lift should close its doors and start making its way down. If it doesn't, you should keep pushing the button until it starts to move. And when you reach the 1st floor, you just leave. You don't look back, don't say anything, just leave and get home. But if you did exit the lift on the 10th floor, then you need to go back to the lift and you need to make sure it is the exact same one you came out of. When you get into the lift, press the button for the 4th floor. Now you have to press the buttons and go floor by floor in the same order as you did when you first went up in the lift. So like you said, you should probably have this written down.
Definitely. Also, I was thinking, bring stickers so that you can stick the sticker onto the elevator so that you know which elevator you used.
That's a really good idea. No one says it's against the rules.
Yeah, I would bring a whole fanny pack of things.
Fanny pack! A fanny pack of glow-in-the-dark stickers.
Yes. I think you found our title.
Oh my word. Okay, so the order of numbers, the floors you went, It's 4, 2, 6, 2, 10. So when you reach the 5th floor, don't know where that is in that order. I think that was
4, 2,
4, 2, 6,
5,
2,
6, what?
10.
Oh, gee. Well, where's the 5th floor then?
I know. Oh, maybe in the descents. When it gets to the 5th floor, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think when you reach the 5th floor, like as it's traveling, then you have to push the 1st floor button.
Okay.
Oh. If you exited the lift on the 10th floor. Okay. So I think you push 4, you push 2, you push 6, you push 2, and then you're on 2, so you're going to 10. So I think once you get to number 5, then you push the 1st floor button.
Okay.
And then the lift will start going to the 10th floor, and you must cancel the lift going up before it gets to the top. You can push the button for any other floor, but you have to get it to stop at another floor before reaching the 9th. So I think you've got from 5 to 8, basically, to stop
8.
yourself. I don't know. Like I said, this is why I don't play this game, because, like, what the hell? I'm already confused.
This is why.
I'm just trying to understand the rules. This is too much math for me. So, if you've done this correctly, the lift will go down to the 1st floor. When it reaches the bottom and the doors open, don't exit immediately. Look outside and check the surroundings carefully. If even the smallest detail feels off, do not exit. Instead, press the 4th floor button and repeat the last few steps. If you're sure you've returned to your own world, you can exit the elevator. Repeat these steps as many times as you need until you are absolutely sure you're in your own world. If you're wrong and you leave, then there are very vague consequences, but basically it's that you're probably going to be stuck in this alternate world forever.
Okay.
And with the whole, getting
alone.
Yeah, apparently alone, which is, I guess,
that's not bad.
Yeah, for a little while, but if you're alone for too long, you start to go nuts.
Nah, I'm already halfway there, so it's fine.
True. With the whole thing of checking, looking outside, making sure everything's the same, that's where people kind of got this whole Elisa Lam was playing this game in those surveillance tapes, because it kind of looks like she's, looking around for someone or whatever. But I mean, that's just people speculating.
Yeah.
There's no,
of course,
not reality, there's no hard proof that she was playing this game. Okay, so what happens if you reach the other world? It is said that when you reach this other world, your electronic devices will malfunction. You might also become slightly disoriented, which is why they emphasize you should focus on which lift you exited on the 10th floor. The 10th floor should have a darkness about it. There might be a faint red glow near windows, and some people have seen the red glow come from a cross-like structure. So, one person recalled his encounter with the woman who gets on the 4th floor. He said, quote, "I had to try really, really hard not to stare her right in the effing face. She wasn't even a girl. She was more of a halo of dark energy that glowed really brightly, if that makes sense." One Redditor says that once he got to the 10th floor, he just had to see it. And when he stepped out of the lift, he heard an almost childlike woman's voice ask where he was going. He knew he shouldn't respond or turn around, but he couldn't help it. He turned and looked. She basically looked like you probably imagined she did. He stared at her for maybe 30 seconds. Then she laughed and the lift door slammed shut, faster than normal. The red cross he saw out the windows were burning wooden crosses, one outside every window. And if he looked close enough, he saw people burning on them, screaming and dying. He ran to the lift and pressed the buttons. He wanted to leave. The doors opened, but the lift was now full of corpses. He got into the lift anyway, despite the smell. The lift moved and he pressed the buttons in the right order, and every time he reached a floor, the girl was standing on the floor just outside the lift. On the 4th floor, she was standing down the hallway. I could barely see her. On the 2nd floor, she was a bit closer. On the 6th floor, I could see her clearly. Back on the 2nd floor, she was actively walking towards me. Oh God, the stench was awful. On the 10th floor, she was running towards me. On the 5th, she was just feet away. So he followed the ritual to get to the 1st floor, but the corpses were still there, meaning he hadn't properly ended the ritual. He exited the lift anyway, and he ran home. It was now midnight, and he had just huddled on the living room floor with all of the lights on all night. He was just so scared. He heard banging and laughter, and he thought, why do his neighbors not hear this? Like, why is no one coming to sort of investigate what's happening? And he was like, he's stuck, and the only way out of this is for him to go back and try to get to reality again, but without her getting to him first. And there was the whole Reddit post of him telling his story and then asking for help, and like, what should he do? Like, how does he fix this? Because now you're
it's almost like a Dear David situation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like a one of those what do you call them, ARGs. I just that image of like you're on the lift and the corpses and it stinks, and like every time you get to a floor, she's closer and closer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the creepy elevator game, which I would never play because I hate lifts.
No.
Also because why tempt fate? I know this is now the end of it. Should we mention the school shooting in America that happened? Those primary school children.
Yes.
Because that is so freaking tragic. Like, so many children. And I see it looks like it was a Latin American man who actually, a young man, 18-year-old, I think, who did it.
And he posted pictures of 2 of his automatic weapons that he bought for himself on his birthday or something like that. It's just wild to me that you can buy these things.
Yeah.
It's a store. Like,
yeah.
Why would you need, or either automatic or semi-automatic, whatever. You don't need guns like that. I understand, like, some people hunt and stuff. It doesn't make sense that you should be able to buy, like, semi-automatic weapons or,
I saw this really great thing that people were, like, sharing on Facebook. How about we treat every young man who wants to buy a gun like every woman who wants to get an abortion? Mandatory 48-hour waiting period, parental permission, a note from his doctor proving he understands what he's about to do, a video he has to watch about the effects of gun violence, an ultrasound wand up the ass, just because. Let's close down all but one gun shop in every state and make him travel hundreds of miles, take time off work, and stay overnight in a strange town to get a gun. Make him walk through a gauntlet of people holding photos of loved ones who were shot to death, people who call him a murderer and beg him not to buy a gun. It makes more sense to do this with young men and guns than with women and healthcare, right? I mean, no woman getting an abortion has killed a room full of people in seconds, right? And I was just like, yeah. Especially since America's, like, fighting abortion, but yet guns just, like start treating...
Fighting abortion because they're pro-life, but then what about these children who...
They're pro-life until the babies are born and they don't care anymore.
Exactly.
So, I was just like, that's so apt. Treat, especially since guns are so easily accessible, clearly, because children are getting access to them. So this shooting obviously happened since it's Tuesday. I mean, so recent as well. In Uvalde, Texas Elementary School. And the victims named are, this was the 4th grade teacher, Eva Morales, 44 years old. Irma Garcia, a co-teacher. The children victims are Uzziah Garcia, Javier Lopez, Eliana Cruz Torres, Jose Flores, Jaila Silguero, Leila Salazar, Jace Luevanos, Emery Jogarza, Alita Ramirez, Tess Marie Mata, Alexandria Lexi Rubio, Makiena Lee Elrod, Nevia Bravo, Eliana Eli Garcia. This is ridiculous. I'm still reading children's names that were murdered. This is like Rogelio. Oh, I love that name. Rogelio Torres, Maite Rodriguez, Jacqueline Cazares. That's too many names. That's too many babies.
There's 19 kids killed,
So those are the
like
victims.
I think 21 in total, and 19 kids.
So those are the names of the victims who died. Unnecessarily, like these are all children. These are babies. I mean, imagine like you're a parent, you send your child to school and you never see them alive again. That must be incredibly traumatic, and for no reason. It's not like there was an earthquake or a flood or like something. It's equally traumatic, but there's at least, it's kind of understandable in a small sense. But for someone to just go and murder them. And I saw the gunman was also killed on scene by police, so we'll never really get answers. Which is...
And he also killed his grandmother before his rampage started. And then he crashed his car, or the car that he was driving nearby, and then went on to shoot, you know? And the fact that he's like an 18-year-old and he went to an elementary school full of like 9-10-year-olds.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That is just...
I don't get it.
Why? Why babies? Why little children? I don't get it. I just saw this now. Joe Garcia had just placed flowers on Thursday morning at the memorial site of his high school sweetheart, Irma Garcia, his wife of 24 years, and mother of their 4 children. So this teacher who was killed, she left behind her husband and 4 children. Sorry, this is from USA Today. Joe Garcia returned home from the cemetery, from the memorial site. He sat down at a kitchen table surrounded by family and suddenly collapsed, according to his nephew. Efforts to revive him were unsuccessful.
Oh my gosh.
So, this is a quote. What happened was my Uncle Joe went to go leave flowers for my tia, my aunt, Irma, his wife, and when he got back, he sat down at the kitchen table with his entire family, and after 3 minutes he just fell over. I'm told my mom was giving him chest compressions. It happened around 10 o'clock. Like, so he just dies. So now those 4 children have no parents. I don't see, like, why, you know, like, what the cause was, but, I mean, it's possible to die of a broken heart.
But stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, like...
You married someone for 24 years, you've got 4 children, and just suddenly like that they're murdered. Oh, that is so tragic.
I need to clarify that there's been 214 mass shootings, but that's not just school shootings, that's mass shootings in general. But still, like, that's still to do with gun violence, exactly.
Whether it's in school or any other public area or in someone's home, it's all too much. Like, it should not be allowed. Well, I just feel like my heart goes out to those children, like, their families. That must be so tragic and so, just heartbreaking, you know, to lose your baby just for what? For nothing, you know?
Also, speaking of, like, there's been a lot of missing persons in South Africa, like missing persons reports in South Africa, and apparently, I know this is completely like a different topic, but still true crime related. There seems to be some sort of like abduction situation happening in, I think it's Mitchell's Plain?
I don't know.
Yeah, like almost like human trafficking
a
type of situation. But definitely there's been a massive increase in the amount of missing persons that has just been going the rounds. I'll try and find the post that I read and I will post it on Law and Omen if I can find it again. But yeah, there's been a lot. I know there's a lady who recently went missing. They found her car, but they didn't find her. In Kailicha. What is her name? 32-year-old Shireen Essel. Her car was later found in Browns Farm, Philippines. There's many, many missing people at the moment.
We do try and share when we see missing posters come up on our feed. We try and share them to our stories. So please do keep an eye out, especially on Facebook, on our stories. If you know or if you have any information about the missing people that you see, please do get in contact. Like, any lead, I think, is better than no lead. So if you think you have information, just get in contact.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of Facebook, our what do you call it? What do you call this?
Handle.
Profile? Or handle. There we go. Our handle is Law and Omen on all social media platforms. And then we have an email address, info@lawandomen.com.
Yeah, we have a website, lawandomen.com. You can also contact us through the website, and there are, resources. There are emergency contact numbers for various resources on the homepage. And if you're on your phone, you can use the buttons, the links to dial in. How do you say this in English? I can't English anymore.
To call immediately, I don't know.
Yeah, so we've tried to make it as easy and convenient, so you don't have to type in a number, you don't have to copy it, you can just press dial on your phone from the site. So hopefully that helps in some way. And we post once a week. We try to, except for last week.
On Sunday, unless we have technical difficulties. We post every Sunday on every major platform and all the others, maybe, or smaller platforms as well. And if there are any platforms that you would like us to get on, get in touch. And
stay safe, please.
Please stay safe. And
look out for your fellow
don't be
person.
a dick.
Yeah, don't be a Richard. No one can see him laughing at us.
Well, I'm
all right.
okay.
Yay. All right.
Bye.
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 Bye.